What up, YouTube family? It's April G. Showers and
DJ Jackson
on the visit. Welcome to episode 2 of 1-to-1 with Mom and Son. We have been trying to think of topics,
which is what's taking so long.
And it's been very difficult because we agree on almost everything.
And some of the ones that you guys commented, either we agreed on it or she just couldn't make up her mind.
There's one that I can't make up my mind, and that's is water wet thing. I can't. There's no way.
It's not.
There's no way I could ever. I don't have no clue.
It's not.
If I'd consider it wet or not.
It's not, because if something is wet, whenever it touches water, that means that water isn't wet, but anything that it touches.
But wouldn't water make it? If water is the thing that makes it wet, wouldn't water itself be wet?
No, because water, whenever it touches something, it makes it wet, right? So, water, H2O, on the smallest possible scale, which is what we're talking about, water, is not wet, because it's not touching other water. Water is not wet.
I would lean towards the side that it is wet.
Okay, well that's not what we're talking about today.
Well, I'm just saying,
It's not.
You just got through saying you wanted me to make up my mind on that particular topic. Now when I have, you're like, oh, well, that's not what we're talking about.
Well, I mean, that's not what you told me we were talking about, but I mean, I'll talk about it.
We can talk about whatever we want to talk about.
Yeah, I know, that's the whole point.
Anyway, April G. Squad, fist bump, love y'all. Let's continue to debate. All opinions expressed in this video are mine and mine alone and
mine. And mine alone. So don't get offended by other people's thoughts on stuff.
We don't represent any type of group, company, affiliation, whatever, stupid whatever.
So we gotta say that.
I think we had on this exact same things we got on right now for episode 1.
I don't know. So that's cool.
Pretty sure we did. We hadn't been wearing the same clothes for a week either, I promise.
It's coincidence.
So, okay.
Wait, our coincidence is real.
No.
Yes.
No such thing as coincidence.
There is.
No such thing as coincidence. Everything happens for a reason.
If everything happens for a reason, which a lot of things do.
Everything does.
Okay, well, say we are wearing the same shirts as before. That would be a coincidence because there's no reason for it. Like, it's just we are, and then our life will continue. It's just a coincidence.
No. Everything just happens for a reason.
What's the reason?
Maybe the reason we're wearing the same shirts is to remind people of episode 1. Who knows? But everything happens for a reason. Like if you're driving down the road and getting a flat tire, you get a flat tire. You think that's a coincidence?
That would not.
That hasn't. No, you can't pick and choose like that. That's the thing with topic. You can't pick and choose. If one thing is a coincidence, then another thing isn't. It's like I'm saying everything happens for a reason.
And I'm saying not everything happens for a reason, but some things do. It depends on the situation.
So like if you're going down the road and you're having a flat tire, is there a reason for that?
You don't know yet.
Yeah. You don't know yet, but I'm asking you, do you think
if
there's
that were
a
to
reason
happen to
for
me,
it?
To me, that wouldn't be a coincidence. That would just be something bad happening. There could be a reason for it that I don't know yet. However, at the moment, It's not a coincidence either. It's just something bad that happened. A coincidence would be like, say, right now, we're just wearing the same shirt as before.
You just got through saying that.
Exactly.
So why are
It's a
you
good
saying
example.
that again?
Because it's a good example.
What's another example then?
Okay, so another example.
That ain't got nothing to do with people wearing the same stuff.
Okay, another example were to be, say, like, I'm talking to this guy and we become friends, and then we go outside. We both have the same color car. Just a coincidence. No reason for it.
It might be a reason for it though. You just
But in
don't
the
know
moment,
yet.
And in the moment, it's a coincidence.
Yeah, but if there's a reason for it, then it was never a coincidence in the first place.
However, some things that happen that, are coincidences, you never find out the reason because there wasn't one. Just like right now, we're probably...
You find out the reason when you go to heaven. Because God has a reason for allowing everything to happen.
Okay, but here on Earth, it would be a coincidence because we'd never find out.
You would find out when you get to heaven. I just told you
And I just
that.
said on Earth it wouldn't.
But on Earth, you still can believe what God said.
Yes, we can believe what God said, obviously. However, there are some things that we won't find out here on Earth.
No, duh. Like, why did my little brother die at 21
Exactly.
from brain cancer?
Exactly.
What was the reasoning in that? I'll never understand that. However, I don't think it was a coincidence. I think, or it was just a bad thing that happened. I think that there was a reason for it.
I feel like there's reasons for some things and not for others.
I don't. I think there's a reason for everything.
Okay.
Everything. And like I like to say, coincidences are God's way of being anonymous. I like that a lot.
Okay, well, even if that's the truth, if that's a good quote, then it would still be considered a coincidence.
No, it's a human saying it's a coincidence, but it's God being anonymous because he's really behind the scenes working things out for our good. Romans.
Yeah, I can see what you're saying.
Because that's what anonymity is you remain
Yeah, I know
anonymous.
what an anonymity is. But, like, I just feel like some things are just so, like, they just don't matter to the point where I don't see why it would be considered everything happening.
Yeah,
for a
but
reason.
what don't matter to you might matter to somebody else.
Like us wearing the same shirts or me and some guy having the same color of car.
Right. It might mean something to the other guy. Who knows? You don't know.
Well, what if I say, hey, we have the same color car?
Maybe he had a brother and they had the same kind of car or same color car, and his brother died in a car wreck. And then he meets you and you got the same kind and color car, but he just don't tell you that. But you're looking at it as a coincidence and say, oh, that's cool. And he's looking at it as, oh man, wow, this is God telling me my brother's still here with me. You don't know.
Well, yeah, to other people. Yeah, you gotta.
I'd be good on a debate team.
Yeah, I wouldn't.
Yeah, you would actually. See?
Yeah.
You see my point on that?
Yeah, but you gotta see my point too. You can't just. Act
I
like don't have
said
any
you'd
points.
see it as a coincidence,
Well,
but
duh.
he sees it as this. You just don't know it because he didn't tell you. That's what I'm saying. But in
coincidences-
actuality, it was never a coincidence. God did that to help that guy through you. You just didn't know it.
I see what you're saying. Yeah, it does make a lot of sense.
I'm just saying.
All right. I still feel like coincidences could just be a coincidence to people who it's not a reason for.
Like, another,
Like me.
Another example.
Yeah. Another example of a coincidence.
Yeah.
All right. Let's say that Valentine's Day last year, I gave my girlfriend some kind of bear. And then say we broke up, and then the next year on Valentine's Day, I go to Walmart and see that same bear in the store. Just a coincidence.
No, because normally stores carry more than one of an object to sell.
Well, duh, but you know what I'm saying. Say I see that same type of bear. I'm just giving an example.
And I'm telling you, that's a bad example.
How is that a bad example?
Because in stores ain't gonna say I'm gonna buy one teddy bear
No, I'm
that
saying
looks like this and sell it and no more. They buy them in bulk. So obviously when you go to the store, you're gonna see.
That's what I mean. I'm not saying there's like one bear on the shelf. It's like, you know how in the store, in the Valentine's Day section, whenever we were there last time, there were like the rows of them. And they have more in the back. That's what I'm talking about. You see that same kind. And of course there's other stuffed animals, but that one you see. Coincidence.
No, it's seeing an item that you bought last year. That's not a coincidence. It's like me saying, oh, I went to the store and got the exact same potato chips I bought last month.
Okay,
That's
well,
not
how
a
about this?
coincidence.
Well, what if, say, I dreamed, okay, of going to the store and getting something, and then woke up and went to the store and got that exact thing.
That's not a coincidence.
But say I'd forgotten the dream until I'd gone to the store and got it. Now, of course, that could be deja vu, but it's also a coincidence.
It's not coincidence. You dreamed it because your brain, whatever, God, whatever you want to call it, was telling you to get that thing. Yeah, you woke up and forgot it, but something within you was telling you you needed to go get it. Then you go get it, then you remember the dream, and then you're like, well, that's crazy.
Well, actually, that reminds me of something. What do you think that deja vu is?
Deja vu is the feeling that this thing has happened before.
Exactly, but like the thing about it is every time that I've experienced deja vu, I've dreamed it before and remember the dream, and then it happens.
That happens to a bunch of people, if not everybody.
Yeah, and I want to know how. That's the thing.
It's
Like,
just,
is it really like some? I don't know. I just want to know what's going on. What do you think?
yeah, I believe dreams have meaning, if that's what you're asking.
I'm just asking what you think deja vu really is.
I just told you.
Okay.
It's the feeling that it's happened before.
Well, duh, but what if, like, you've actually dreamed it? Or even have actually done it?
Then it's weird. And it's crazy.
Okay.
And it just depends what it is you're talking about. Like what?
Say I dream of my day of, I don't know, work or school. And then I wake up. I'm like, wow, that was weird. That was a crazy dream. That's weird. So I wake up, and I end up doing the exact same thing without realizing it until I'm done. I'm like, wait, that's just the same thing I did in my dream.
Yeah, it's weird.
Okay, but what do you think causes that?
God.
Okay, well, why would you think?
Why would I think?
Why would you think that he caused it? Like, what would the reason be?
I don't know. You'd have to ask him. There's things
that's
we're
how
not
it
meant
works.
to understand. I mean,
I'm just gonna go ask God.
I'm saying there's just things we're not meant to understand. Again, going back to Jordan passing away.
Okay.
There's
okay.
things we're just not meant to understand because God's understanding far surpasses humans' understanding. That's why we have this thing called faith. And that's why there's a verse that says we walk by faith, not by sight. Which means even though you may see something physically, you're seeing it with your own eyes. It may not be exactly as you see it. You've got to rely on your faith versus what you're seeing.
Okay.
You see what I'm saying?
Yep.
That's just how I believe. That don't mean you have
Well,
to
yeah, I
believe.
believe in faith too, obviously. Obviously. But I'm just saying, I was just asking what you thought it was. Deja vu.
I told you.
I know, but I was saying I was just asking. But yeah, so I do think that coincidences are a thing. Whether they be caused by God or not, I do feel like coincidences are a thing.
And I feel like they're not.
Okay. Well, back to that subject from earlier that you finally figured out the answer for. Is water wet?
Okay, then when you get out the shower and your hair's wet, right? And
There's
you
water.
get a blow dryer, right?
Yep.
And you go to blow dry your hair.
Mm-hmm.
Is what you're using to blow dry your hair
A blow
dry?
dryer. Yeah, a blow dryer.
Well, if what you're using, what comes out of the actual blow dryer ain't drying your hair. What comes out of the blow dryer is drying your hair, which is air.
The air comes.
All right, is that air?
It pushes the water
Is
out.
that air dry?
Is the air dry?
Yeah.
The air is air.
Is it dry?
It is until it pushes the water.
What do you mean it is until it pushes the water? So the air becomes wet when it pushes the water? What are you saying?
To me, I don't think air can get wet. Air can't get wet.
Yeah, that's
because-
why we have blow dryers, Jackson.
Exactly. I don't feel like air can get wet. Because have you ever seen air get
Exactly, just like water can't get dry. Right?
wet? No, but it can be moved.
Air can be moved.
And water can't get wet either. Can it, huh? If I
Okay.
put water on water, it ain't gonna make it wet. It's gonna make it more water.
It's good, but it's still wet water. It ain't
How is
dry water. And if a thing isn't dry, then it's wet. If a thing isn't wet, then it's dry.
I'm trying to think of the word for it.
That's just, if it ain't wet, then it's dry. Like right now, this shirt is dry.
All right. Well, okay. Look, if I pour water onto water, does that make the water wet?
It's regardless, it's still water. It don't make it dry, so therefore it'd be wet. Yeah.
But the thing about it is,
Okay, is air the air that's coming out of a blow dryer that you dry your hair with? Is that wet or dry?
it's dry.
Okay, how can air be dry?
Air is dry because there is no water touching it other than the water vapor, which cannot make things wet. Whenever it does touch water, it moves it.
Okay, and the opposite thing is
Air is a gas, is not a solid. Water's
not a solid.
It's a liquid, and liquids make solids.
And
wet.
gases can turn to liquids.
But air isn't a liquid.
But it can turn to liquid.
But not after touching water.
Evaporation.
Gas evaporates into liquid.
You know what I mean.
Also, air does not condensate. Water vapor does.
But air is dry is what I'm saying.
Exactly. Air is dry. Water makes solids
So if
wet.
water isn't wet and water isn't dry, then what is it?
Water,
It's got to be one of the two. Every single thing, period, is either wet or it's dry. One or the two.
Water, at its H2O,
I
as
know
small as it
what
can be,
the molecule of
is,
water is.
I
It's a
think-
little bitty drip of water. It's wet.
it would be dry until it touches more water.
No. Because it's a little bitty drip of water.
It's a tiny little drip of water
That's wet.
that is not wet, and it makes things wet. Water is not wet, it makes things wet.
How can it make things wet if it itself isn't wet?
Well, have you ever seen dry water before in a pool?
Exactly.
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 Water isn't wet.
Water isn't dry.
Water isn't wet.
And it isn't dry.
Then what is it?
Exactly. Exactly my point.
That's my point too, because if it's not wet and it's not dry, then what is it, huh?
That's what I'm asking.
It can't be wet because
It's
water
got to
makes
be
things wet.
one or the other.
No, it doesn't.
Why don't it?
Because water is water.
That is not a sufficient
I think that
answer.
water would be dry because water makes things wet.
Okay, well, air makes things dry,
If
so
I have-
therefore air is dry. Have you ever
Yes.
seen wet air?
No, I haven't. So,
So
air,
then it's dry.
it's dry. Yes.
Well, earlier you were saying no.
I said earlier air is dry.
No, you didn't.
I was thinking about it and changed my answer because I was trying to think.
You said it wasn't.
And then I came to the conclusion that it was.
Then, okay, if air is dry and it's what makes your wet hair dry, then the thing that makes your
No.
dry hair wet is wet.
No, the way that dry air makes your hair not wet is by moving the water, which makes it wet, off of it.
Exactly. But
It does not. Dry air does not make water drier. No, it doesn't. Water touching water can make water wet.
All right, explain me this then. If I go wet this shirt right now, right, and
Okay.
it's just damp. It's damp, right?
Mm-hmm.
You don't see the water. You can just feel that it's damp.
Yeah.
And I take a blow dryer and turn it on, and I'm blow drying it. That water ain't moving
And you know why it's not going to move?
nowhere, but yet it gets dry.
If there was a stain on my shirt and I just blow dry it over and over, it's not going to, after a while, just get completely dry. There's going to be some in it. And even if it does, it's because the air that's coming onto it is hot, making the water evaporate. You know what evaporation
Water
is?
don't evaporate on cotton.
It doesn't evaporate on cotton, but if there's heat, it evaporates.
But my point is, it's on, this shirt is damp. I'm
There
blow
is water
drying.
in the shirt.
I'm blow drying the dampness,
Yes,
and it gets dry.
because it evaporates up. Duh. Well, then where else does it go, huh?
It
Where are you
just
saying?
dries.
Well, then where does the water go? It can't just go into nowhere.
It just dried up.
You know how it dried up? Because the water came out by evaporation. Otherwise, it would stay.
Okay, but you're saying that a blow dryer makes your hair dry.
Yes, it's hot air.
I don't give a damn about why or how it makes your hair dry. I'm saying it makes your hair dry, and you've said that air itself is dry.
Yes.
Okay, well, if air makes your wet hair dry, right?
Yes.
Then the thing that made your hair wet
Was
was
water.
wet.
It doesn't have to be because the entire point of being wet is to have
So
water.
then that you're a hypocrite like I was with the meat with this, because that makes no sense. Because if the thing that makes your hair dry is dry, but the thing that makes your hair wet ain't wet, that's what you're saying.
Yeah, because the entire way, I have to go over how you blow dry again. The way that blow
You've
dry
already.
works.
I don't give a damn
It blows
how
off.
it works. I don't care. You stated air is dry. A blow dryer is air. Correct?
Yes.
Okay. And my thing is, if the thing that makes your wet, whatever, dry is dry, then whatever made that thing wet is wet.
I see where you're trying to come from with this, but the entire way that something gets wet is by coming in contact with water.
Yeah, and water is water, so therefore it's wet.
Okay, what's the air made out of?
Air.
On like periodic table, what's it made of?
Hell, I don't know. Air.
Oxygen. Duh.
Well, duh.
And guess what water's also made of?
Oxygen. Yeah. But also
Hydrogen.
hydrogen.
And oxygen.
Right.
Meaning that air is in water. And you said air is dry, correct? I said air is dry, right?
Mm-hmm.
Meaning that water would be dry.
There's also carbon dioxide in there. We
Okay,
breathe
air.
in oxygen, breathe out carbon dioxide.
Yes, but we're not talking about carbon dioxide. We're talking about air that we breathe, which is made of O2.
Yeah.
Oxygen, 2 oxygen makes air.
But air is made of oxygen and carbon dioxide.
No, it isn't. You can look up it right now. It says O2, which is 2 oxygen. Carbon dioxide
Because
is
that's
in.
the air we breathe in. But then we breathe out air. And the air we breathe out is carbon dioxide.
You know what's also in the air? Water vapor. But guess what? We don't say that's air, do we?
No, but okay, you're saying the O2 part of it's dry, right? That's what you're saying?
Yeah.
Alright. So, alright, say my finger's wet a little bit, right?
Yeah, water on it.
And I'm going blowing carbon dioxide on that mug,
It moves it. Duh.
and it gets dry, right?
Because
So
you
if
move
the
water.
okay,
Duh.
so the air that we
And also-
hold on, so the air that we blow out is wet, or
What?
is it dry?
It's dry.
Okay.
How does that have anything to do with your argument? Because look, if I blow, okay, so first of all, you're saying
Because you were saying that water was H2O and had partly oxygen in it.
yes,
Right. So I was trying to
carbon
explain
dioxide
to you,
has nothing to do with
but
this,
I
but
was
it's also
trying
dry.
to explain to you, it don't matter if it has oxygen. It don't matter what the molecular structure or whatever is. That it don't matter. It's still wet or dry. This is dry. The stuff inside this is wet. If I pour this on you right now, you gonna be wet. And this ain't water, right?
No, that ain't water.
Okay,
it
this
has water
ain't
in
this
it.
ain't water,
It
right?
has water in it, and you can't deny that.
It's got carbonated water in it,
So exactly, water.
but that's not water.
It's
water.
not exact water. It's not pure water, but
So
it is
you're
water.
saying the stuff liquid in this is not wet?
If the liquid is touching other liquid, that would make it wet. But if it's just
So then a ocean full of water, it's water touching water, that means it's wet. Otherwise, you're a hypocrite.
okay, well, here's what I'm talking about. I'm saying, sure, a pool, an ocean, whatever, that would be considered wet because it's water.
That's
touching
my
water.
whole point.
And my whole point you won't let me get to. My whole point is water touch water, water wet. However, if water on the tiniest level is not wet because it's not touching any other water, meaning water is not wet. H2O is not wet.
I disagree.
Okay?
Okay.
We just gotta
Water
agree to
is
disagree.
wet.
So
Water is wet regardless of how big or small.
So are all liquids wet to you?
Yes.
What about lava? Magma?
Yeah, it's just thick liquid. When you touch it, if I was to put my shirt in it and take my shirt out, my shirt ain't gonna be dry.
How's that?
Because it's wet.
If I were to put my shirt in lava, it would burn it to where it was in lava. And probably catch on fire.
I'm saying there's like lava lamps, Jackson, where you could put your shirt in that lava.
I don't mean lava lamp. I mean lava from a volcano. Not a lava lamp.
Yeah, it's just really freaking hot liquid.
Well, though it's a liquid, but is it wet?
Yes.
Okay, so you're telling me if I were to go swimming in a volcano, I'd be completely fine. It's just wet. I'd just be wet.
No, you'd be an idiot.
But if I were to put my shirt in lava, like you're talking about, it would burn it. It wouldn't make it wet. It would burn it. It'd make it hotter and burn it to a crisp. Or even catch it on fire. And that's not what happens.
Yeah, because is what that's because of the temperature of it,
And
not
what it's
because
made
of the structure of it.
Well, if I were to boil water super hot and put my shirt in,
Yeah, it'd be wet.
it'd be wet. Yes,
Right.
because it's touching water. But if I were to do the same with lava, it would catch on fire. And stuff.
Okay, but the argument here or debate, whatever,
And I'm getting to
is water wet?
And if anything touches water, it becomes wet, which is what I'm saying. If I put my shirt in water, it becomes wet. My entire point.
Yeah, but you just admitted that water was wet, other than if it's one little molecule of water
Which is
of
what
H2O.
is referred to as water. Just like,
But that bottled water is referred to as water too.
well, duh, it's water as a group.
Okay, but it's wet.
Because it's touching other water.
So if it's wet because it's touching other water, then that means water's wet.
If it's touching other water, yes. Wow. But if it's at
If
the
it's
smallest thing, it's not.
if a drop of water and another drop of water touch each other and make each other wet, then that means they're wet.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But if it's just that drop of water, not wet.
Yes, it is. Otherwise, how could it make anything else wet?
Being wet is having water on it.
Right.
Exactly.
Because water's wet.
No, it's not.
Earlier, you said it was.
If it's touching other water.
See,
Like
you're
I
making
said.
no sense.
No, we're not. We're making no progress.
No,
or
you're
anything.
making no sense.
You're
You're
making no
backtracking.
The only
You
time
say
I say
water's wet if water touches water.
Yes.
But if water touches water, then both waters have to be wet in order for it to be wet when they touch. Just like when water touches this shirt, the water has to be wet in order for the shirt to get wet. At the smallest molecule of air, it's dry.
And oxygen is in water.
But so is hydrogen, which is wet.
Have you ever seen hydrogen?
No, but I took microbiology in college.
And it was wet. Well, then what does dry and wet make?
Wet. Duh.
Then how does the dry get rid of the wet? But then the wet gets rid of the dry.
Because the dry does not have hydrogen, which is wet.
But then how does the wet get rid of the dry while the dry gets rid of the wet? That's my question.
Because it's wet. It has hydrogen in it. And the thing that's dry
I get
don't.
how it is dry. I understand how it is wet. But I'm saying, how does the dry make it not wet? Like, say, the blow dry thing from earlier. How does the dry make it not wet, while if I were to pour a cup of water on your shirt, that which is dry, it would make it wet?
And then if I took air again and pointed it at the wet shirt,
Yeah,
it'd
how
be
does that
dry.
work?
You could just keep doing it all day
Okay.
with both.
Okay. Yeah, I know. That's the whole point.
Right.
Of course you can do that, duh.
Air's dry, water's wet.
Even if water wasn't wet, which is what my whole point is, or if it was, that would work no matter what.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because something is always either or wet or dry.
Well, what if something's humid or damp?
That's wet.
That's counted as wet?
Yes.
Okay.
Look up the word damp and see what it says. Go ahead. Your phone's right there. Look up damp.
Might as well.
Watch what you're doing.
I noticed. Sorry. Slightly wet. Okay. So damp is still wet.
Mm-hmm.
Water at its smallest is dry, and I'm not. My opinion is not going to
So
change.
even dampness, a little bitty bit of damp, is still considered wet. Look up wet.
Wet. Probably.
Yeah, look up wet.
All right, I'll look up wet. I'll look up wet. Covered or saturated with water. Boom.
Which means water's wet.
Exactly not. Because water.
You said earlier it was.
If it's touching other water. How do you not understand that?
Let's just look up, is water wet?
Sure, just look it up then.
It doesn't matter what Google says because water is wet.
Well, really? Water isn't wet by itself, but it makes other materials wet when it sticks to the surface of them. My whole point. Confirmed.
Yeah, but what's the
Confirmed.
source? No, it's not confirmed. Where's the source? It just says
Google.
that anybody could have put that in there.
Oh, really?
Look, there is no source. There's no source under it. There's no link. There's no nothing.
Because it's Google themselves telling you water isn't wet.
Boom. If this says, and this is Science Line with us, scienceline.ucsb.edu. If we define wet as a sensation that we get when a liquid comes in contact with us, then yes, water is wet to us. If we define wet as made of liquid or moisture, then water is definitely wet because it is made of liquid, and in this sense, all liquids are wet because they are all made of liquids. And that's got a source to it. That bullshit's just
Give it.
there.
Give it. I need
Find
to be
something
honest.
with a source saying it ain't wet.
Here's a source, theguardian.com. Water isn't wet because it is a liquid that wets things.
Oh my God!
There.
Listen to who's the Guardian? Mine's Science. What's the Guardian?
What's Science Live? That's not science, that's Science Live. There's no official science source.
Water isn't wet because it's liquid that wets things.
Yeah.
Now that really makes a whole lot of damn sense right there. Alright, here we go.
Let me look at it too.
Wheatonwire.com.
What's
Wheaton?
Wheaton
No, it's
wire?
not Wheaton, it's Wheaton.
What's Wheaton wire?
Water is wet. Because when something is wet, it has water on it, and on a molecular level, water molecules are bonded on top of each other. Therefore, water is wet. An extension to the previous argument that a couple of students brought up was that one water molecule alone is not wet. But when water molecules touch each other, they make each other wet. This causes a bunch of water molecules together, which one would classify as water, to be wet. There were also many persuasive reasons that water should not be considered wet. Things that can be wet can also be dry. Water cannot switch between dry and wet, so it can be neither, says this person. It is also important to note that wet is an adjective while water is a noun. Okay, air is a noun while dry is an adjective. Alright. Wet is a description of things that liquids touch. A shirt can get wet, but the water itself is not wet. Alright, that's that person's opinion. Wet is a description for water. If water were wet, you could replace the word water with wet. Now that's just dumb. I don't think water is wet because wet means being covered or saturated with a liquid. Water is not that. Yeah, a whole ocean of water ain't saturated with liquid.
We're talking about on the molecular level. We've already been over that.
So it says, even after hearing input from this college campus, so it's a college campus, whether or not water is wet still seemed to be a toss-up.
I do not think it is wet. And I'm not ever going to change that opinion.
Nobody really knows, is the answer. And we're all free to believe as we choose.
I don't think it is. And she does.
So, folks,
that was episode 2.
We didn't know we would be talking about that.
Who suggested it again?
Grace.
Grace.
Shout out Grace for suggesting that topic.
Which
we had thought we wasn't going to talk about that topic.
We
actually wouldn't. We were going to do dumb
do
laws.
something else.
Yeah.
And then I was saying that about the beginning, and you had made up your mind all of a sudden, so we just went on with it.
And water's wet. And he said water's wet, and now he's saying it's not.
I said, is water wet? And no.
You said it was earlier.
If it's touching other water, why don't you ever understand that?
Anyway.
On the molecular level, it is not wet.
I disagree. Water is wet.
I agree with myself. And a lot of other people do too, you saw.
And a lot of people agree with me.
So I'm more on the not side.
Because they'd already explained the yes side. You want me to, let's get it again and we'll look up my side. I guarantee I can find just as many.
Alright, fine. We'll say it's a 50-50, whatever you want to believe.
It said in the end it was a toss-up.
Yeah, I know. It is a toss-up. Exactly. Okay.
If more people would have believed your way, it would have said at the end most people believed water is not wet. That's what it would have said.
Okay.
It wouldn't have said it was a toss-up.
Yeah, it makes sense. Okay, but so that was the debate.
What do you think? Let us know in the comments. Do y'all think water is wet? Let us know.
Or do you think it isn't?
In the comments. When you Google it, literally, you can't depend on the first little thing that pops up, because you always, anytime you Google something, and this is not just for this question, and you need to know this. like for research
Well, no,
papers
you need
and
to go
stuff.
and look at other sources.
Anything that you Google, the first thing that pops up, always look below it to see if there is a source, a credible source. And if there's not, if it's just a sentence or a statement with no source at all, you can't go by that. You have to continue to do your research, like research with sources, be able to quote the sources and all that kind of stuff. Like, I am a research queen. He can tell you that. So I'm just telling you, for those who, just, yeah. But anyway, y'all let us know in the comments, do you think water is wet? It is.
It's not.
It's wet. It's freaking wet.
No, it's
But anyway, also let us know in the comments, other than religion and politics, we're not talking about those. Plus, me and him pretty much believe the exact same things when it comes to those two things anyway. But, anyway, let us know some topics y'all would like us to do in the future. We got episode 3 that will be coming next week. And yeah, we're going to continue this as long as y'all continue watching and commenting below. And yeah, and we got our homicide breakdown coming up later too. So stay tuned for that. Alright, y'all. Thank y'all so much. Again, shout out Grace for that topic that we didn't even know we were going to do until we literally started recording. So, yeah, that was fun. That was fun. That was fun. I love debating. You know what I'm saying?
Me too.
So anyway, again, the opinions expressed in this video were mine and mine alone, and
mine alone.
And we do not represent any company. So, and if you were to get offended by anything in this video, especially,
that's sad.
Come on.
That's
so
just sad.
Anyway, yeah. We hope y'all enjoyed this. Please remember the link to my merch is in the description box, as well as my Patreon. I've got my bloopers from my Real Slim Shady remix in the works that's going to be going up on my Patreon, that only my patrons, my Patreon members, my patrons will be able to see.
Exclusive.
So, if you want to be able to see exclusive videos and material and things like that, click on the link in the description box and just check it out. Clicking on the link commits you to nothing. Just click on the link and check it out. If it's something you're interested in, awesome. If not, awesome. Alright, y'all. Please like this video on your way out, a lot more important than you think. And please subscribe to my channel, y'all. I'm not very far away from 6,000. Whoop, whoop, whoop. On the road to 10K. Whoop, whoop, whoop. Thank y'all. I'm very grateful for y'all. So yeah, please like this video on your way out. And subscribe to my channel, y'all. April G. Squad. Fist bump. Love y'all. And we'll see y'all in just a little bit. Peace out.